Faulkner County Library, and I am back this month with another Taste Test Kitchen at Home. So this month, since it is March, we are going to be making Lucky Rice Krispie treats with Lucky Charms and marshmallows. This is a really simple recipe that you can make as an after-school treat or as a treat for St. Patrick's Day or any day that you just want a little bit extra luck in your snack. So to make the Lucky Charms treats, you're going to need Lucky Charms cereal, also some mini marshmallows, some butter, a pot that you can cook the marshmallows on the stove, and then you're going to want a 9x9 pan or some other sort of pan that you can cool the Rice Krispie treats in. And once you have your ingredients gathered together and you have washed your hands and have a clean work environment, we are ready to get started. Okay, so we are about to melt some butter, but before we do that, I'm just going to go ahead and take the pan that I want to use, and I am going to use the butter and just grease the pan. So just kind of scooting the butter along the pan. And this is going to help us make sure that our Lucky Charms treats don't stick to the pan, because we want as much of the Lucky Charms treats as possible without having to share them with the pan. So we're just going to grease the pan, and I am now going to set that over to the side and use that same stick of butter, and we're going to melt it over this on the stove over medium heat. And remember, when you melt things on the stove, that you do want to be very careful because things get very hot. So the Lucky Charms Rice Krispie treats that we are making today, they are from Delish. And remember, the first thing we do when we make any recipe is actually study the recipe and see what it says to do. So we looked at our ingredients and we're now following the directions. So we greased the pan with butter and are melting the butter over medium heat. After the butter is melted, we're going to add some marshmallows. And I'm mostly leaving the butter alone while it cooks, but occasionally I am stirring just to make sure that it doesn't stay in one spot or get overcooked in one spot. So our butter is melted, and we are now ready to add marshmallows. And one ingredient that we are using that I forgot to mention is salt. So we're going to add some salt and some marshmallows. And we're adding half a teaspoon of salt. Our recipe also calls for 12 ounces of marshmallows. So I am going to add one entire 10-ounce bag and then a little bit extra from another bag. I just wanted to give those a good stir before I add in some more. And we are just going to continue stirring this, making sure that nothing gets burned, or it's going to be sticky, but we don't want it to be too globby. And if you tuned into our spiderweb brownie video last fall, we melted marshmallows for that, and we did not have any liquid in our containers. So see what the difference is for you when we start with the melted butter versus if we just had plain marshmallows. And we are stirring until these are completely melted. It might be kind of tempting when you see them start to get gooey, but we want this to be completely melted. So our marshmallows are completely melted at this point. We have ooey gooey goodness. And we are going to remove this from the heat and stir in 6 cups of Lucky Charms. And before I add the Lucky Charms, we pulled out some of the marshmallows from the Lucky Charms. so that we can use those as garnish on the top. So if you would like some extra marshmallows at the top of your treats, pull out some marshmallows before you add it in. Otherwise, we're going to add 6 cups. Here's our 1. I am going to take a quick break and stir these in. And you don't want to crunch your Lucky Charms. So that was 3 cups. Here is my last 3 cups. Okay, so we have our 6 cups of Lucky Charms that we are now going to stir into the marshmallow mixture. And this is a little bit of a tight squeeze in my pot, but I think we can do it. You want to make sure in this process that all of the Lucky Charms have marshmallow gooey. You don't want any dry. And remember how we have had to scrape the pan sometimes when we make things with dough. So use those skills. Once you feel that you have a good mix, you're going to pour your pot into the pan that we greased earlier and let them cool in that. And if you see when you're pouring it into the pan that you have some parts that didn't get mixed super well, you can take a pause and you can do a little bit of mixing. And you want it to be even, but you don't want your Lucky Charms to be crushed. So kind of a balance of making sure that you have one layer, but without crushing. And this process is going to probably mean that you're going to get a little bit sticky. And this is what your Rice Krispie treats should look like. I'm now going to take some of those marshmallows that I held aside and just sprinkle them on the top so we get a little bit extra marshmallow goodness. And the next step in the marshmallow and the Lucky Charms treat making process is just to let it cool. Thank you all so much for joining me for this month's Taste Test Kitchen. You should have a nice pan of Lucky Charms treats now that you can share with your friends and family. And I hope that you all subscribe to the Faulkner County Library YouTube page, Faulkner County Library Facebook page, and Faulkner County Library Youth Services Facebook page for more programming information. Have a good day.